What's going on, everyone? This is going to be a video for stamina, DK, sword, and board 2H build that I've been running from Morrowind. I'm going to show a couple different setups, as I try to do when I make videos like this, just different options. But I do want to make it quick because there's a lot to go over. So my stats are 20,000 physical and spell resist, 3,100 weapon damage, almost 30% weapon crit, 1,200 stam recovery, 17.5 max health outside of Cyrodiil, so around 2,300 or 23,000 max health in Cyrodiil, and 32.5 max stam. Now, if you see, you could probably guess what I'm running looking at the crit resist, 3,500, just on my sword and board bar, 2,300 physical and spell resist. So, sword and board and 2H build. 2H is the main attack bar. Skills, hardened armor or volatile armor, either one works. Rally, reverse slice, crit rush, venomous claw, take flight. So this take flight is a huge part of this build for damage, as is this venomous claw. This claw should be on people always. 13,000 poison damage over 10 seconds, plus it goes up by 12%. And take flight hits for 17,000. Dawnbreaker would not be good for this build. Number one, because it costs less. DKs, actually no, it costs more. No, the main problem with Dawnbreaker right now is because it just doesn't work. Like, I don't want to get into it and get on a rant, but it's not hitting people. That people are dodge rolling it. You could be right in front of somebody and face to face with them, and you know, most of the time it's not going to hit them. So I'm trying to stay away from it. Unfortunately, on my Stam Sork and even on my Warden, I can't stay away from Dawnbreaker. So, but that's neither here nor there. So Igneous Shield, this is like a mandatory if you're running a DK build. It procs Mountain's Blessings for minor brutality and Helping Hands to get you stamina back. Reverberating Bash, Major Defile, and it does some damage and it stuns, but mainly the Major Defile is really good. Shuffle, dodge chance, snare evasion, ransack. See, I went over this over the breath, noxious breath, because this still gives major fracture, does damage, and it gives you minor resolve, so you get even more resistance, because this build has really high resistance when everything's procced, like really high. Resolving Vigor and Corrosive Armor. Corrosive is like an oh shit button, but it actually, I mean, while active, your attacks ignore all physical resistance. That's pretty powerful, but I don't find myself hitting it that often. So, basically, with this build, what I mean by sustained survivability is it's got high resistance, it's got high damage, well, decently high damage. Like, I would consider like 4,000 weapon damage really high damage. 5,000 is like something you don't see anymore in this game. It used to, but not anymore so much anyway. And 3,000 is really good damage. So the recovery being at 1,200 goes up with a potion to 1435, and right after you kill somebody, will go up to 0 apparently, but no, it'll go up to 1722. I forgot to say passives too. You want to take all the passives for everything that you're using, especially the class and weapon abilities and the armor abilities, but mainly Battle Roar. Every time you use an ultimate, you get all resources back for the ultimate's cost. So the more you can spam ultimates, the longer you're going to survive. The more you can hit Earth Igneous Shields for this Helping Hands passive, the more you're going to survive. Plus, with Igneous Shields, people don't realize, even though it's a small shield, it still is a shield, and people can't crit through shields. So even though it's a shield, if a Templar is raiding you, for example, and you can hit this like, 3 times or 2 times, as long as it's not hit, like as long as it's going through the shield, the radiant won't crit, and it's going to do a lot less damage. That goes for a lot of things too. Fortunately, proc sets will still do a lot of damage, which sucks, but whatever. So, using the warrior for this particular setup, Dubious Cameron Throne, it's really, really good. And for potions, Essence of Stamina and Essence of Immovabilities or whatever is fine. But immovable and speed pots are probably what's the best case scenario for this build, because you have no speed boost. Sometimes you're going to need a speed boost, so I would go immovable and speed if possible. And personally, I always keep Detect Pots because Night Blades are extremely annoying, especially now more than ever. So if you can, I would always keep Detect Pots on you. That's pretty much it for that. Now for the different gear setups. So Werewolf Hide, that is the wrong one. Werewolf Hide is the first set. Health stam, weapon damage. When you take damage, you generate 5 ultimate. This can occur every 5 seconds. So this can be a back bar proc. This, you don't have to have this. You just make sure you hit your back bar every 5 seconds. When you're fighting, you take some damage, do a light attack, proc your weapon damage glyph. So yeah, actually this build does get higher weapon damage. It just doesn't show on the tooltip or whatever on the character sheet. So it probably gets closer to 3400 with this glyph procced. So if you're proccing this glyph and taking damage every 5 seconds on your back bar, you're good. Puncture, gain, minor resolve. So yeah, as long as you're swapping your back bar and doing that, then you're good. Maelstrom 2H, any 2H, sword, well I like any of them. I like them all for different reasons. Sword will make your leap hit really hard, Battle Axe will proc a really strong bleed, and the Maul will ignore a lot of their resistance, which works out good in the end anyway. If you don't have a Maelstrom weapon, you most certainly want a Werewolf Hide, whatever, it's sharpened 2H. As long as it's sharpened, you will get close to what my 3100 weapon damage is. You'll get close to that because the 4-piece right here, let me do this. Let me switch bars. The 4-piece is not showing up on my front bar. It would be nice to, but there's no possible way for that to happen with this setup if I want to use the Maelstrom weapon, and you get more with the Maelstrom weapon anyway. So if you don't have the Maelstrom weapon, then you use the Werewolf Hide sharpened weapon on your front bar, and it's not 189 weapon damage that a Maelstrom weapon is, but you still will get this extra 124 weapon damage, so it'll be pretty close. Anyway, Blood Spawn, stamina recovery, and most people know what Blood Spawn does, but when you take damage, 6% chance to generate 15 ultimate and increase your physical and spell resistance by 6,000 for 6 seconds with a 6-second cooldown, so like it'll be up whenever. It doesn't really have a cooldown. So when Blood Spawn procs, this build gets pretty close to 3,000 or 30,000 resistance. It's crazy. And yeah, it's medium armor. The last set is Impregnable. If you saw the crit resist, you probably knew. Max health, stam, magic, and 2400 crit resist. It's pretty strong set. I go reinforced on 3 pieces. I'd probably go on a 4th if I could, or if I took the time to, but either way, this 3500 crit resist is with no champion points into crit resist, obviously. I don't know what the cap is. I've heard 32 and I've heard 34 from people, so I'm sitting at 35 just to be safe. But reinforced is good because more armor, more resistance in medium armor. And as far as the jewelry goes, werewolf hide jewelry, that way this 5-piece is always on the body, which is what needs to happen. Weapon damage, reduce stamina cost. This, I mean, this is interchangeable. You could go stam recovery here, you could go stam recovery here and only have 1 weapon damage glyph, or you could go all weapon damage. It really doesn't matter. It's just however you want to run it. If you're able to PvP, like, PvP is different on each platform, I've noticed, watching people on all platforms over the years, and it depends how PvP is, like what campaign you're in. It depends on the campaigns too. It just depends what situation. So if you're able to, you know, get in more heavy attacks, then you might not need to have 2 recoveries. I don't need it personally. Like, it's got really good sustain. Let's see. So before I do anything else, so I was gonna go possibly 5 Tavas and use sword and board as a main attack bar with Viper, Spriggans, Tremor Scale, but I really like the tanky survivability of this setup. And it's just a really balanced build. That's what it comes down to. But this is what I started on. I'm gonna put this setup on. This is the heavy armor setup, which I guess if you're a lower CP, but even then, it's like I said, heavy armor doesn't even matter here because you get close to 30,000 resistance with everything fully buffed. So this is 2700 spell resist, 2500 physical resist. On my sword and board bar, that's like 2300 on my back bar, or on my main bar, 2H bar. So this crit resistance isn't correct. I would put like, you know, 1100 into my champion point tree and end up with like 2500 champion point total crit resist. I just don't have anything in it right now, so that's why it's so low. It's just basing off what is on the armor. But this build I really like too, with the heavy armor. So where's the balance? I don't know, because medium, you're getting around the same recovery, the same weapon damage, like, not that far off is what I'm trying to say. So with this setup, it's same stam, little like 2,000 more health, around the same weapon damage, more resistance. The only, well actually, a little less stam recovery, but with Black Rose, you're actually getting more stam recovery. I'll show you that in a second. The only difference here is you'd want to swap out the warrior for the thief. End up with like 32% crit. I definitely don't want to be sitting at 22% crit. I don't. So if you're in heavy in this setup, you definitely want to go with the thief. So yeah, Black Rose, health, stam, magic. Then you get 149 weapon and spell damage, which is a unique value. I don't think any other set gives you that amount. And increases the magic and stamina restored from the Constitution passive. So with Black Rose on Constitution, you're getting 1021. So roughly, you can roughly figure it out by in combat. add 500 onto your stamina recovery. It's about half of that. Half of 1,000 that Black Rose tooltips for with the Constitution passive. It's just a rough estimate, but you get around 1,500 stamina recovery, obviously with the potion, and if you kill somebody on your 2H bar, that goes up. But it's a lot of sustain. Now, the difference is, I mean, there's really not that big of a difference. Either setup is good. If you want to play more tanky with a little less damage, because you're going to get, with a Thief Mundus, you get about this same amount, 2,900 weapon damage. I want to say, like, no, it's 2,850. You get 2,850 in Black Rose, fully buffed. That's with Igneous. It's like, it's a little over 2,850. So with this, you get 30/30 fully buffed. So it basically comes down to how you want to play it. I like either one. I'm just playing with the medium setup right now with Impregnable. I'll show you the resistance real quick. Probably should have been looking. Sometimes it can take a second to proc. It's a random proc, so just trying to see something here, man. So there we go. 33,000 physical, no, spell resist, and 32 physical resist, I think it was. So it's a lot. But it's still a lot with the medium armor on. Impregnable is a very strong set, but really where the medium armor shines more is in non-CP or Battlegrounds. And I've run Black Rose on this build in Battlegrounds, and I've run Impregnable in there too. And I'm pretty sure that you get more recovery and survivability in the Impregnable. But I did good in the Black Rose too, so it's hard to say. Well, it's not hard to say. You definitely want to go medium in Battlegrounds for sure, or non-CP. But if you really feel the need to go heavy, I'm just saying you can. Werewolf Hide Axe. So with this, I forgot to mention this. Decisive, precise, or defending is what I would recommend. It's your choice. Decisive kind of goes with getting ultimate. With this setup, you get even more ultimate, and I ran decisive for a while. I switched back and forth to this. Precise just for more crit on my back bar is what it comes down to for healing and stuff. Alright, now the only other thing I wanted to mention was, before I go over the champion points, well actually, like I said before, all the passives, medium, heavy. This right here is important, this Fighter's Guild passive. I gotta get one more skill point for this because this is my second DK, and I don't have a lot of skill points on him. But this will give you 9 ultimate when you kill undead, Daedra, or werewolves, and a lot of people are werewolves and vampires in PvP, so definitely want to have that. All the assault and support ones you can get, and so the race, I mean, race isn't the biggest deal, but if I had to recommend a race for like starting a new DK, I would go Orc, or Nord, or Argonian, or Dark Elf, but pretty much in that order. Orc, Nord, Argonian, Dark Elf. And the only other thing is, if you don't want to run, if you don't PvP, If you're new and you just want to get sets you can farm, if you can't buy Impregnable, if you can't go to the sewers to buy Black Rose, if you want another set that I could recommend, or if you just want to go with a 2H and bow setup, it will be a different build. But the other set that I would recommend is Red Mountain, which actually pairs well if you're a Dark Elf, because weapon damage, stam, crit, and then 10% chance when you use a weapon ability to deal an additional 8800 flame damage every 2 seconds. So with that third Dark Elf passive, increases your flame damage by I think 7 or 9%, something like that. It will actually boost Red Mountain. I love this set. I've always loved this set. I like it over any other proc set in the game. And if I had to recommend a third setup for this, like if you wanted to go 2H and bow, you could run Red Mountain Greatsword and a Werewolf Hide bow. Then you would run like Werewolf Hide, one piece, the 3 jewelry, and then 4 Red Mountain instead of like 4 Red Mountain where my Impregnable is. I just don't have them on me right now. And it would make it a different build. It'd still be good. Some people like 2H and bow, but with the way the game is now, with the way the game's always been, even, I like blocking. I like sword and shield a lot. You block a lot of damage. A lot of magic builds will block cast, and they don't expect stamina builds to block a lot, because people, I guess, just don't block in this game too much, but block damage is less damage that you take. So yeah, if you wanted to go with a different setup, that would be it, Red Mountain. But this is my main setup for now, and it seems to be doing pretty good. Now, just gonna go over the champion points, because I'm sure this is already like 25 minutes longer than it should be. If you don't have max CP or you have low CP, I would recommend that you just pretty much split this in half of what I'm using. I mean, there's certain spots that are more important than others, but I'll show you that. So 5% into Siphoner, 10% into Warlord for break free. These are the 3 main important ones: Mooncalf, Arcanist, Tenacity. Tenacity you want to throw in your heavy attacks, 10% there. 10% into Magic Recovery for Igneous, and 10% into Stam Recovery. 9% into Shadow Ward for blocking, because like I said, I like to block. I'm going to try to get 10% into here at some point. 27 into Blessed. 3 into Physical Weapon Expert, that's not that important. 11 into Shattering Blows, 23 into Master at Arms. You can really play around with the champion point trees more now that they have the diminishing returns or whatever it's called. 23 into Thaumaturge, 28 into Precise Strikes, 39 into Piercing. So if you put like 45, 50 points into Piercing, you pretty much get what Spriggans gives you. You get a lot of penetration now from this. 56 in the Mighty. The only other thing I would say here is, if you're gonna run Red Mountain, I would throw like 15 to 20 points into Elemental Expert. This will cause your Red Mountain proc to go up, which is really powerful. And even now, more than ever, that you get more with smaller amounts from champion points, it's really powerful to put that in there. Okay, so I'm gonna do that one last. 6 in the Expert Defender. This is not all that important, but people are heavy attacking more now, especially magic builds. 49 in the Hardy and Elemental. 23 into Thick Skinned. 37 into Ironclad. And so for the Impregnable setup, I run it this way: 23 into Medium Armor Expert and 20 into Spell Shield. I'm not sure why I have 3 into resistant. It's not really needed, so I'll probably put 23 into spell shield, take that 3 out of there. 23 and 23. So with these two, obviously with Impregnable you don't need any into resistant, but if you're running Black Rose, if you're running Red Mountain, you definitely want a good amount of crit resist. I would go all impen. And Black Rose, if you buy it, comes in impen anyway. But I would put I mean, I would just put 43. You could put it all in. I like to have 3. Just, it really doesn't matter. As long as you have it at least 40 into resistant, then you should be alright. But that's, again, only if you're running like Black Rose or Red Mountain. And that should at least get you to 2500 crit resist, I believe. Which is pretty good. That's it for champion points. That's pretty much it. This is probably the main build I'll use for Morrowind up until they release Clockwork City or whatever Valkyrie, I think it is. The Reachman? Something like that. I don't know. Something they're doing in Skyrim. I don't know if it's an update or I heard it was just dungeons. I don't know. Guess we'll see, but that's pretty much it. I do want to run a hybrid though coming up. Something that a Dark Elf can be good at with a lot of flame damage, probably with Red Mountain. So yeah, that about sums it up for this build or these different setups. Yeah, that's it.